Wildcats football. Wildcats football. Wildcats football. Wildcats football.
Hey, playoffs.
All right, Steve, here we are back by popular demand.
We weren't going to do a playoff podcast, but we had a couple of you that reached out and said, we'd like to hear from you. See what your thoughts and opinions are since, at least Jacqueline. Like, hey, we want to know what your wife's picks are. We don't really care about yours too much. You're kind of running cold. I was hot in the middle of the season, but not even close to you. You're doing pretty well. How'd you do last week?
Well, I didn't do the numbers, but decent, not great, but over 500.
Yeah. The ones that I liked the best came in, but overall, I think I was around 500.
I had a couple good sleeper picks, though. I don't remember exactly what they were, but anyway.
All right, so we're into the playoffs. This is super wild card playoff round. This is the first time ever. The first week of the NFL playoffs is going to have 6 games.
We have a weekend full of football.
This is awesome. Like, instead of like, the worst feeling is 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on that first Saturday when you're just waiting for football to come on, and the first game doesn't come on until 4:30. So I love the fact that we're going 105, 440, and 8:15 on both days.
Although I don't really like the way that they scheduled it. Like, I would have loved to see the Baltimore-Tennessee game later in the day, personally.
Oh yeah, on Sunday it's 1 o'clock game.
Yeah,
that's a good game. I mean, really,
that's the best game.
I think it's the best game too.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go through these fairly quickly. Only 6 games. First game up is Indianapolis at Buffalo. It is Buffalo favored by 6.5. And I just think Buffalo is on a roll, and I don't think Indy's going to stop them. I mean, they absolutely stomped Miami last week, 59 points, and half of that was with their backups in. So I think they're on a roll, and I don't think Phillip Rivers is going to be able to keep up.
It feels like the perfect maturation from last season, that they've been to the playoffs, they're prepared, they know what they're walking into, and Josh Allen has just matured so much from last year to this year, right? He's played so much better. Now they're at home. Indy's a tough opponent, but it's hard to go against Buffalo here thinking that they're going to have a meltdown. They just seem prepared for this moment. I don't know how far they're going to go. We may talk about that a little bit later, but I mean, I don't see how they're at least going to lose. So the question comes into play, are they going to cover the spread, which is 6.5 points? The over-unders opened up at 52.5, is now down to 51.5. Thoughts on the spread?
I feel pretty good taking Buffalo, less than a touchdown.
Yeah, I think this, who knows? This is as of Friday night. So who knows if it reaches 7 by kickoff, 1 o'clock on Saturday. But I think you got to take Buffalo here. I don't know how you can go against them. Indianapolis has a good running game, and they've been running strong. They played a bad fourth quarter the last time out against Pittsburgh, but they pretty much controlled the game for the first half and a lot into the third quarter. So they're coming down losing that game when they were playing for something. The division was on the line. So it kind of questions, when they get in the fourth quarter, is this team really built to go far in the playoffs? I don't like Phillip Rivers. I know you don't like Phillip Rivers either. I think when he goes into Buffalo with that defense, he's going to struggle a little bit. They'll probably put some points on the board here, but I like Buffalo to roll.
I agree. All right. Next game up is the Los Angeles Rams.
Watch out for Diggs. Diggs is going to light that secondary up.
He is questionable, though. He'll play. LA Rams at Seattle. Seattle is open at -5. It's down to -3.
This is an interesting one because you don't know who the quarterback is yet.
We don't know who the quarterback is. Goff had the thumb injury. He had surgery on his thumb last Monday.
From what we're seeing out there, it looks like they're leaning to, they're not committing, but Goff definitely has a shot to start this game, even with the broken knuckle, right? Otherwise, it's Wolford, right? John Wolford, who was the rookie that came in. Actually, he came in from the AAFL, right? AAF. We talked about him last week, and basically, he looked pretty good, and he moved the ball. He looked a little short, and when he got down to the goal line, he had trouble getting the ball into the end zone against the Cardinals. So that could be a major problem. A lot of times that's, with their smaller quarterbacks, you get down there and you jumble everything in. They have less success. And that kind of concerns me if he's the quarterback. And I don't really feel that much more confident if it's Goff because he's got a broken knuckle. So I don't like him that much to begin with Guy's got a broken knuckle. I see trouble for the Rams. They got a good defense, but I don't know how they're going to stop Seattle. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think traditionally in this matchup, it seems like the Rams have had Seattle's number. They won a majority of the matchups.
Seattle did win last week, right?
Yeah, I always still lean towards Seattle here, and I think that Goff's thumb or Walford would be the difference here for me. So I'm taking Seattle at -3.
Did we game set on this one? Did we even talk like what the line is?
I did. -5 down to -3.
All right.
So money's coming in on the Rams. That kind of surprises me.
Yeah.
But I guess they're going back to
well, that tells you that they think Goff's going to play. So that's why probably a miscalculation. That's probably adjusting from thinking Goff's not going to play to thinking he's going to play. So if he does play, who knows, that line might go down. But again, I don't know how effective he's going to be throwing the ball. That Seattle defense is really starting to play well at the right time of the year. They didn't look that good at the beginning of the season, but they really seem like they're gelling. It's kind of opposite about the offense. They were clicking. They lost, I think, right going into the bye in November sometime, and their offense hasn't been the same since. So they've been banged up with some running back issues, some offensive line issues. But it is Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson is time tested in the playoffs. And especially if you get the Wolford guy in there, I don't know how Russell Wilson's going to lose to a guy like John Wolford. I don't see it happening. I don't see how he loses to an injured Goff either. If you believe in the revenge factor, they did win last week or 2 weeks ago, right?
Who?
The Seattle played the Rams like 2 weeks ago, and Seattle won. Mm-hmm. What did you say? The Rams won the first matchup?
Rams have won, yeah. Going back.
4 out of 5 or something? 5 out of 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was the one. All right.
It was 3 out of 4 going into the season. They split this season.
The only other thing they add is the record. Seattle's 12-4. Rams are 10-6. So saying the line's -3, I like the Seahawks here. You like the Seahawks?
I like them up to the -3. I might get a little worried after if it goes up from there.
Okay, so far Saturday, both favorites.
All right, so next game up is Tampa Bay at Washington. This opened at -6.5 in favor of Tampa Bay. It's at -8.
I see it flashing at 8.5 in some places, so that's probably trending up. Expect 9.
I mean, Alex Smith is not 100%. The coach actually came out and talked about rotating quarterbacks during the game, which
that's not good.
That's not good. I don't know if that's ever been done. There's probably a reason it's never been done. Certainly not in a playoff game. Now, obviously, Washington has a good defense, and Chase Young had some comments that I guess the media kind of blew him out of proportion, but maybe kind of fuel for Tom Brady's fire, saying that he wants Tom Brady.
It's young exuberance.
So
foolish. Never challenged a master like that. He's just looking to fire him up. Like, he needs to get fired up and play this team because it's the NFC East champ, right? Everybody's like, whoever plays them, they're going to get an easy game. So that's the thing you worry about, is that they're not motivated here and they come in and they play inside this 8-point line, which definitely could happen. Before you go to the game, you can't discount the fact that Washington's got a great defense. Tampa Bay has shown that they've struggled at times, even though they seem like they're starting to synergize at the end of the season like we were all hoping. So if you believe in Tom, you believe in Tampa, I think you got to roll with them. But let's consider the 8 points. In any world, Jacqueline, is that too many points?
Well, I went back and I looked at the games that the Tampa Bay Bucks lost, and the clear trend seems to be they lost to the teams that have a good defense. They lost 2 games to the Saints, 1 game to the Bears, the Rams, and then they did win, but they struggled with the Giants. So I could definitely, I don't know that I would take Tampa at 8. I could see, I don't think Tampa Bay loses, but it could be a close game. I kind of question Washington's ability to move the ball down the field, though. And Tom Brady historically doesn't throw a lot of picks. He has thrown a few this season. So I don't know. I heard something on the radio about like Washington hasn't scored a touchdown on a like traditional drive where they start at their own like 25-yard line. They've only been able to score touchdowns in most of their games where they've gotten like a turnover, short field type situation. So I question how many, touchdowns Washington's going to get and how far they're going to be able to move the ball. But I could see it being a close game. So I think I'm going to take Washington, take the points.
All right, so the question for me is Arians going to try to get cocky here, and he's going to try to call long pass plays and allow that Washington front line time to get to Tom Brady? Or are they going to play it smart, hit Gronk and Godwin all day long over the middle with quick passes? If they do that, they can't stop them.
We don't know whether they're going to have Mike Evans. He left the game last week. With
Antonio Brown filled in nicely. Thank
with
you.
a knee injury.
I'm not even worried about Mike Evans. Antonio Brown, he's in Antonio Brown's way.
He was at practice, so it looks like he might.
I hope he doesn't
give
play.
it a go. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Mike Evans. I almost prefer that he didn't play.
So here's how I feel about this game. I think that this is the classic. This would be a Washington cover. Everybody's going to like Tampa Bay coming in here. Again, we talked about the NFC East thing, so everybody thinks at least Tampa's going to win. Some people who think that Washington will cover probably don't think that Washington has a chance to win at all. Typically, I would take Washington in this spot. They do have a history that if you put anything into it, these are players that never played in that matchup, but Washington played in the playoffs against the Buccaneers in the past as big underdogs and have won the game. So there is precedent here historically. But with Alex Smith just not healthy, I mean, you watched the Eagles game with me. He was horrible. He couldn't move. If that line gets a good lick on him, he's done. And then who do they have coming in?
I don't know if it's a Tyler or Taylor or Henneke.
Henneke. Jesus.
He's better than Dwayne Haskins.
So I want to say that, the Buccaneers could struggle against this defense, and I definitely think they will. But can Washington even score? I mean, you get a fluke touchdown or two. Tampa Bay can put points on the board so fast regardless. I don't see how you take Washington here. I'm taking Tampa. I'm taking all the favorites on Saturday.
All right. So next game up is Baltimore at Tennessee. It opened at -4 in favor of Baltimore. It's at -3 in favor of Baltimore. And I have a lot to say on this game because number one, I don't understand why Baltimore is favored. These are two teams, I think, with the same record, but Tennessee's the division winner. Baltimore's the wild card.
So what's the one concept I've been trying to teach you?
What?
About when a line doesn't make sense.
Well, I know, and I don't like where that leads me, but
I'm not trying to get you there, but I'm just trying to say, hey, what is that term? The line's telling you something, right?
Right.
And we're trying to talk about what that means. Like the line's telling you something. A lot of times when you're like, why is the line like this? It's because Vegas knows something and the line's telling you, even though you like it, it doesn't make sense that you should go the other way. But anyway, just continue,
let me finish my thoughts.
Sorry.
So the game is in Tennessee. Tennessee has won both of the last meetings against Baltimore last year in the playoffs. And then they played this season. And Tennessee won both those games. In the playoffs, they won 28-12. In the regular season this year, it did go to overtime, and Tennessee won 30-24. In addition, Lamar Jackson has a history of not being able to produce when the playoffs roll around. And in those past seasons, they came in, or he played a lot better in the regular season. So coming into the playoffs. But they have won, I think, their last 5 games, Baltimore. But if you look at the teams that they won, you have the Cowboys, the Browns, the Jags, the Giants, and the Bengals. So not exactly stiff competition. They only have 3 wins all season against teams that have a winning record. So I don't understand the line. The fact that I don't understand the line would say I should be on Baltimore. And maybe it's just a take because I like Tennessee. But I am going to stick with Tennessee. I am drastically worried about their defense because they just don't seem to have one. So that's what worries me. I was on Tennessee last year in the playoffs. I had a much better feeling then than I do now. But I think at least it could be a close game. So I would take the points. This was the game, and I still don't even really understand exactly what happened, but if you were watching the game, the clip was just John Harbaugh and Malcolm Butler kind of going at it. So there was some drama with Baltimore didn't like what Tennessee did on their logo. Like they kind of had some little like solidarity type thing before the game in Baltimore in the regular season. So that could be some fuel for the fire. I don't know who that favors. Your thoughts?
I think you talked yourself into why they're a 3-point line. You talked about you hit on their defense. Tennessee's defense, they don't have a defensive coordinator this year. That's one of the reasons why it appears that they're a sieve on defense and they're allowing a lot of points. Baltimore's been in a lot of those kind of games, like against the Cleveland, where they're scoring in the 40s. A lot of high scoring games. A lot of games they've been putting up points recently against some bad teams, like you alluded to. At the end of the day, for me, I think you can't discount the success that Tennessee has had. I know, I'm really getting away from the revenge factor because I just don't believe in Baltimore. I feel like there's a way to defend Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, and that's what's been happening. Tennessee did it to him last year. They took the playbook out of Belichick. Tennessee knows what that playbook is, and Baltimore hasn't seemed, and Lamar Jackson hasn't seemed to be able to overcome that. So the question is, with the lack of defense, does that matter? Do they have the talent to be able to implement that strategy or system to be able to contain Lamar Jackson? I think what you're going to see here is a very high scoring game. They're going to bend and they're going to give up some points. But I don't see any way that Baltimore's defense can stop Derrick Henry. That guy is on a roll. He is freight training through this league. He had like 200 yards last week, right?
Yeah, against Houston.
But Baltimore's defense has, not been that great when they've played against good offenses. I really like Tannehill too. It's kind of like we talked about Buffalo taking that next step. Tennessee's team overall doesn't seem to be as good as it was last year when they made that run to the AFC Championship. However, I don't think that you can overlook the success they had, specifically against Baltimore in the past and in the past playoffs. And I think that Tennessee is going to get eliminated in the first round here against Baltimore, even though they're playing better. I just don't really see it. If you can stop Baltimore's run, then everything plays off that run. If you can stop the run, they're going to be in trouble. I like Tennessee.
I would think Tennessee has a better chance of stopping the run than they do the pass.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can see Lamar Jackson, chucking it down the field.
I look for Tannehill to have a really big game here.
So, yeah, I would assume that Baltimore's approach is going to be try to stop Derrick Henry. But to that extent, if you do, load the box, if he breaks through, then he's headed for the end zone. So,
well, Brown is the hitter there on offense for wide receiver, right? But do not discount the slot guy.
He's not the slot guy. Corey Davis.
Oh, Corey Davis is who I was trying to talk about. For some reason, right before I was about to talk about him, his name went out of my head. But Corey Davis has been playing really well. He's been getting like 5-6 catches at least a game.
A.J. Brown, I think, is questionable. He's kind of that guy that'll go into the game and then get hurt and leave the game. But in that case, you do have Corey Davis still out there. And then it seems like the tight ends were more involved earlier in the season when A.J. Brown wasn't out there. So you have those guys to step up too. So, to me, it really comes down to, can the Tennessee defense do enough? I'm not worried about the offense.
For Baltimore, for me, for them to win this game, Mark Andrews has to have the game of his life.
He hasn't been too active. Like, he certainly hasn't had the year he had last year.
Yeah, well, he needs to wake up because they need some tight end production and they need it quick because this team can give up yards passing. But like I said, they're going to have to establish the run with J.K. Dobbins. Let's not forget J.K. Dobbins is a young guy. He's a rookie. And he hasn't really had that many attempts because they've been splitting the carries around now. It looks like they're leaning on him a little more heavily here. But I'd be a little concerned about ball control and ball security with Dobbins here in a big playoff situation.
All right. So who's your pick on the game?
Tennessee. I like the dog.
All right. I'm a little worried about him, but
Hungry dog.
I'm going to stick with him. All right. Next game up is Chicago at New Orleans. This opened at -9.5 in favor of the Saints. It's at 10. These teams played in week 7. The game was at the Bears. This was when I think Nick Foles, this might have been his first start.
Nick Foles was the quarterback.
He was the quarterback.
He brought him from behind.
Game.
It was a Nick Foles classic, and they went to overtime, and New Orleans kicked the field goal.
The Saints won 26-23. Now, the Saints have gone out of the playoffs the last 2 years, kind of on bad plays at the end of the game. I think the clock is kind of ticking there in terms of the Drew Brees era.
A little.
So
How old is he now?
I think
41,
maybe 39. But I think he would retire if he gets a Super Bowl. So I think that's kind of what he's hanging on for here. But
I mean, he did win one before.
Yeah.
In maybe 2008.
But I think he would be the guy that gets the Super Bowl and he would retire, like wants to go out on top, versus like a Tom Brady who might hang around too long.
No, I don't know, with everything that went down with him and with a lot of the protests and some of the feelings that he responded about kneeling with the flag, his teammates didn't really take too kindly to, and he was kind of ostracized for his stance, which was really a pro-military stance.
So what does that have to do with anything?
I don't think he wants to stick around. I think he's done after this year.
Well, maybe.
He's had enough.
Wouldn't you rather go out with the Super Bowl than not?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think we still don't know for sure about Kamara. It sounds like he's going to play, but I thought when he tested positive last week that it was almost like he couldn't play this game because it was like a 10-day time frame. But apparently he's going to play. I think Michael Thomas was activated from the injured reserve, so he may be back for this game. I really thought, and I lost out on a lot of money last week because the Saints beat the Panthers pretty handedly. So I really thought going into that game with no running backs, no Michael Thomas, no Kamara.
That was a bad loss for both of us. I had Carolina big.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is 41, by the way.
Oh, is he? Okay. So
he'll be 42 in 6 days on the 15th.
So I think that the Saints will win, but I think it could be a closer game. So I'm probably going to take the points on this one too. Your
what?
Thought? I'm taking the points.
I thought you said you were going Saints when we talked
at 10.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I like the points too.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints won by more than 10. Because I think Sean Payton's going to have them ready.
I was in the same boat as you last week, and I will not bet against them the rest of the way if they cover this game. I like Chicago. I like them a lot. I think they're going to play the game close. It's a similar situation. Chicago maybe comes back with Trubisky to backdoor this thing. I think that Chicago, for being a 10-point dog, actually has a shot to win this game, because if you analyze it like we did last week, and maybe we were wrong, but I really don't think we're wrong, because if you look at the fact that he doesn't have Michael Thomas, Kamara's coming back from COVID and he's a running back. You think he's going to have the durability and they're going to be able to lean on him like they typically do? Any of these guys that have gotten hit the first week back, they have not looked that good.
But he tested positive, but you don't know if he had symptoms. Like, you don't know.
Well, this week they were playing for the bye, so they would have wanted him to play. I don't know. Regardless, Kamara makes a big difference, but I don't think Kamara gets off against the Bears. I don't see how he can. Bears have a staunch defense.
The Saints defense ain't bad either.
Now, the Bears did not play great last week in the second half against Green Bay. They did give up 40 points? Somewhere around there. But I don't want to feel like I'm Drew Brees hating, but I just don't see how this defense doesn't keep it within 10 points. And Trubisky should be able to get, say, 20 points on the board, 17.
I mean, I could see it maybe
being. I don't trust Malcolm Jenkins. I mean, I know the defense has been playing well, but I've seen Malcolm Jenkins and, playing for Philly, and Malcolm Jenkins is the man, but he has lost a step. And I think if they can figure out a way to exploit that, they could win this game outright.
So, yeah, I mean, I could see it being either a close game all the way through, or worst case, it could be a game where the Saints go up and then the Bears come back and get a couple touchdowns in garbage time and bring it within the 10 points.
Let's not forget what happened last year. I mean, a lot of people had them picked to go to the Super Bowl, and they laid an egg against Minnesota. I know it came down to the late last play, but they should have rolled through Minnesota.
What was that last? There was the one year where it was Stephon Diggs ran the ball back, but wasn't that 2 years ago?
Yeah, who'd they lose to last year? I forget
who they played last year, but that was definitely 2 years ago. But anyway.
It was 2 years in a row. One was the Diggs one, that was in Minnesota. And then last year they were in New Orleans, I thought. And then they came up with the win. Thielen had a good game. All right. Chicago.
So,
last game of the night.
Last game is Cleveland at Pittsburgh. It opened at -3.5 in favor of Pittsburgh. It's up to -6. Now, when we were watching the games last week, I said that I could see Pittsburgh out in the first round of the playoffs. I thought it was very strange. I mean, I understand that they rested their starters. They didn't get the bye week, all that. But to leave them at home just seemed like odd to me. Very odd to me that you wouldn't want your quarterback on the sideline, at least during the last game of the season before the playoffs start, especially since there was the talk about how like the offensive coordinator has become very like predictable in his play calling, and Ben Roethlisberger was kind of calling the plays in week 16, the second half of that game against the Colts. Like, shouldn't he be on the sideline, maybe like talking to the offensive coordinator? It just seems strange to me. Not if you don't want to replicate
that pattern of play calling. I mean, you don't really need to practice that. You can practice that in practice. You don't want to get into a game and necessarily show your hand and give them, especially when you end up, there was a possibility, which ended up happening. You're playing the same team back to back. So that game was against Cleveland. So I don't think they wanted to give them anything.
It just seemed weird to me. And that's the type of thing I think you have a team.
It's overstated what you're saying because we talked about this.
Pittsburgh and Buffalo kind of in the same position last week. But you saw Buffalo go out there. They started the game with their starters and they rolled. And they put up 59 points. I mean, they pulled them at halftime because, I mean, that's what you do when you're like already got the game in hand. But just such a different approach. And I think that approach would backfire. But then the matchups were set on these games. And I think that, Cleveland is the best team that Pittsburgh could have ended up playing in this round of the playoffs, because I think that, Pittsburgh has a pretty good approach to beat Cleveland. And we saw Cleveland, they played last week in week 17, and Pittsburgh played them with Mason Rudolph, and they almost came back and won that game or tied it. So I think that, Pittsburgh's going to get lucky and they're going to get the win this week, and I will take them at -6. The other thing here for the Browns is their coach, Kevin Stefanski, has tested positive for COVID, so he will not be on the sideline during this game. Your thoughts? Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just waiting for you to, when you're done, that's all.
Finish, okay.
I like the other side. I like Cleveland here. And I'm telling you, I think everybody's going to be on Pittsburgh, but let's remember how bad Pittsburgh's looked over the last month of the season. They played one good quarter of football against Indianapolis to get into the playoffs, to get their division.
Baker Mayfield struggles under pressure. Pittsburgh defense is going to show up for this game.
Something's wrong with Pittsburgh.
They're going to be all over.
Pittsburgh is like, if you picture a dog got shot in the leg and it's never really going to heal right. He's never going to really walk right. And I feel like, you kind of alluded to it. I think it's the right decision by Tomlin to kind of sit the guys and just say, okay.
Fine, sit them, but you still put them on the plane and bring them to the game.
Well, if you're going to sit him and he's not going to play,
I mean, it should almost be like a requirement that you have to be there.
Well, with the COVID, you have to take it into account.
Because that wasn't like the reason
that this guy travels and gets COVID.
That wasn't the reason that was given.
Well,
and then apparently Ben in the press this week said that he didn't even throw a football the whole time.
I don't like it. I can see why they made the decision, because they didn't have a bye. Right, they lost their bye because they had COVID issues earlier in the season, and these guys were drained, and they're really plodding into the playoffs because they haven't played well, they haven't looked good. Receivers are dropping balls everywhere. They haven't kept anybody out of the backfield, and Ben looks like he's clueless. He's not been in the league before. I'm a Cleveland hater. I will take the points here. I think Cleveland's going to win outright. I would bet the money line.
I also, I think the fact
Cleveland's
that
on a roll. They're going to run. If they can successfully run the ball, and I haven't seen anybody stop Nick Chubb that much, right? I mean, like he's had success against Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's usually pretty good against the run. But if they can't stop the run, they're in trouble, man. Cleveland's feeling good about themselves, even though the fact I think what a lot of people are going to look at is they've been on lockdown all week. Talk about Ben Roethlisberger not throwing a football. Baker Mayfield,
yeah, but who does
might have thrown today? I'm not sure, but he didn't throw Thursday, and he
but
hadn't
who
thrown
does that
since
work
last game.
against?
Well,
I mean, you got a guy like Ben Roethlisberger who's been in the league for all these years. I'm pretty sure like he can go out there on Sunday. Baker Mayfield needs a little bit of practice, I'm sure.
okay. Or does the old big guy need time? You know, you stretch his arm out. If he hasn't thrown that arm, he's old. He's going to get tight. You know, he hasn't wound it up. It's a lot like baseball, where you're in the outfield. You're gonna stretch your arm out and play long toss. And you can't just take a week off and think that you're going to.
Well, no, I totally agree with you
like
that
you did.
The week off, I don't know that was a good
Baker
idea.
Mayfield's young and limber, and I don't know that mentally, maybe yes, absolutely mentally and game plan and preparing, absolutely, but physically, Baker Mayfield had no problem picking up the ball and chucking it down the field.
Well, he's not going to have his coach, and I think you can credit Kevin Stefanski a lot for the success of the Browns and the success that Baker Mayfield's had, and I think that not having him on the sideline, not there calling the plays, is a huge disadvantage for Baker, especially up against the Pittsburgh defense. So I got $20 sitting here, Steve.
All right. So listen, it's funny. We think alike. So I was really hesitating to say there was one other game that we differed on, I think.
What was that? We're both on Chicago, both on Tennessee.
Chicago, Tennessee,
Were you taking Tampa at -8?
So I like all the dogs. So here's what I picked. I liked all the favorites on Saturday, all the dogs on Sunday. Is that what you like other than Pittsburgh, Cleveland?
Well, I'm taking the points in the Tampa Bay Washington game.
Okay, so let's do 20 each game. I'll take Tampa, you take Washington. I'll take Cleveland, you take Pittsburgh with the lines that's on the sheet. Pittsburgh, 6.
You're just trying to get yourself
Tampa
like a
Bay,
split there.
8. I'm not trying to get a split. Who would go in the 2 bets and say, I can't wait to get a split? I'm going to take $40 from you, and I'm going to love it.
Well, you're definitely not getting 40 because
All right,
Pittsburgh is going to dominate Cleveland
with the spread.
for sure.
And then Tampa, I'll give you 8. Lock it in right now.
All right.
I'll give you 8 and 6. Call it a night. I like Saturday, all the favorites. Sunday, all the dogs. Jacqueline, all the favorites on Saturday. Tennessee and Chicago, the dogs at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. But she's flipping, and we're going against each other at 8 o'clock. She likes the favorite, the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's been a great season. I think this is fun first year. Oh, I thought we were wrapping it up.
Yeah, we are, but you got to give me your Super Bowl winner.
You want me to go first? Okay, my Super Bowl winner is none other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These guys have been waiting all season for them to gel. We've talked about them all podcast. I've been talking about them all season about, it just makes sense. They're struggling. They got a lot of talent. It's a lot of new. They got to congeal. They are coming together at the right time. I think that they will plod past Washington. And if they have to go into Green Bay, they will upset the Green Bay Packers next week. I don't even look for Green Bay to have a win.
But then they got to get through New Orleans.
And I have Tampa through New Orleans playing against Kansas City. The other side, I have Kansas City versus Tennessee. And I also like Buffalo.
All right. I'm taking Buffalo to win it all.
To win it all.
Win it all.
Sean McDermott, Super Bowl winning coach.
I think if anybody can take out the Chiefs, I think it's them.
I'll tell you what, I would feel really good about Sean McDermott winning the Super Bowl as a Philadelphia Eagles fan and the guy who replaced the great Jim Johnson and studied under Jim Johnson. I almost look at it as Jim Johnson looking down upon him. And Jim Johnson, if you don't know, not Jimmy Johnson, the Cowboys coach, but Jim Johnson, the Eagles' longtime defensive coordinator under Andy Reid. When Andy Reid first took over the franchise, he started in 99 and got Jimmy Johnson in maybe like 2002. And that's when the Eagles went on that NFC run where they had the multiple NFC championship appearances. Anyway, I like to pick Buffalo. I'm going Tampa. That would be a great Super Bowl, Buffalo, Tampa. I'd like it.
Okay. Well, I don't have Tampa Bay getting past the Saints, so it won't happen. But All right, so that's going to do it for us, and it's going to do it for us for the season. But if you're watching, please like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube so that you will be notified when we're back for the 2021 season.
If we do this next year, a lot of people have given us a lot of good ideas, so feel free to comment any ideas you have that could make this podcast better. We want to get more interactive next year, maybe give away some prizes, so we'll be encouraging interaction, but we would like to hear from you guys. If you have any thoughts or opinions, good or bad, we don't care. We're just doing this for fun. So
we respond well to constructive criticism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, I don't, but
yeah.
All right.
Like the guy said, we're just a bunch of dumb fans talking. You know what? We may be, but we're giving you winners.
All right. That'll do it for us. Peace out.